She was stealing cash from the front desk till and blaming everyone around her, including a sweet, gentle man with an intellectual disability who emptied the garbage and had never once been near the register. I'd been covering her shift for hours when I finally called her house. Her husband answered. Told me she was at work. I told him she was not. He came in. She came downstairs. The look on her face when she saw him standing at the front desk is something I will never forget. This is a story about a hotel front desk, a woman who stole from her employer and lied about it constantly. And one night where every single one of her choices caught up with her simultaneously, in the lobby, in front of her husband, with nowhere to go. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and let me tell you about the night she walked down those stairs. I worked the evening shift at a motel. She worked overnight. She was supposed to relieve me at the end of my shift so I could go home and get a few hours of sleep before my day job started. That was the arrangement. That was what made the schedule work for me. She was chronically late, not occasionally, not by a few minutes, habitually, significantly, flippantly late. She didn't seem to think it was a problem worth addressing. I did. Because I was the one standing at the front desk waiting for her while my sleep hours ticked away. But the lateness was the least of it. Money was going missing from the till. Not occasionally, irregularly, consistently, in a pattern that management had noticed and was trying to pin down. Cash transactions would come up short, the register wouldn't balance. And every single time an explanation was needed, she had one ready. Someone else had done it. The man she accused most frequently was a kind, gentle fellow with an intellectual disability who worked at the motel emptying the garbage. He was hard-working, honest, and, crucially, had no access to the front desk whatsoever. He never went behind the counter. He had no reason to and no opportunity to. The accusation was not only false, it was transparently impossible. She accused the housekeeping staff too. Anyone who was available to blame, she blamed. Management had their suspicions about where the money was actually going, but they hadn't moved to fire her yet. These things take time to document properly. I knew what was happening. Most of the people who worked there knew what was happening. And watching her repeatedly point the finger at people who had done nothing, especially the man who emptied the garbage, was the kind of thing that sits badly with you. One night she didn't show up at all. Not late, not slow. Simply absent. Her shift started, her shift continued, and there was no sign of her. I had a day job. I had a life. I had a very finite number of hours available for sleep between the end of my evening shift and the start of my morning. Those hours were disappearing in real time while I stood at the front desk covering for someone who couldn't be bothered to appear. I was furious. I picked up the phone and called her house. Her husband answered. I explained who I was and asked if she was on her way in. He told me she was already at work. I told him she was not. There was a pause. He came in. I want to be clear, I did not invite him. I didn't suggest he come down to check. I told him his wife wasn't at work, and he arrived at his own conclusions about what that meant and what he wanted to do about it. He showed up at the front desk and settled in, and I could see him working through the situation in real time, trying to make the pieces fit in a way that had an innocent explanation. He wasn't finding one. But he wasn't leaving either. We waited. She came down from upstairs. She wasn't alone. She was with a man, draped over him, doing the kind of openly affectionate things that people do when they believe nobody is watching and the lobby of their workplace is not current. While occupied by their spouse, she hit the bottom of the stairs and looked toward the front desk. Her husband was standing there. I have thought about the expression on her face many times in the years since. The specific, complete, instantaneous collapse of someone who has just realized that every single thing they have been managing separately has arrived at the same moment in the same room. There was nowhere to go. There was no version of events she could construct in the next 5 seconds that was going to help her. The man she'd come downstairs with assessed the situation, made a rapid decision, and left. Her husband and she left together. I stood at the front desk, still technically on a shift that had ended hours ago, a little stunned by what I had just witnessed. The one thing that bothered me, and I want to be honest about this, was that I didn't get to say anything to her. The scene resolved itself so quickly, with her and her husband walking out the door, that I never got my moment. I got something better instead. She was fired. The theft documentation was already building, management already had their suspicions, and whatever happened after that night in the lobby accelerated the timeline considerably. She was let go. Then she applied at another hotel nearby. As it happened, I knew the management there. Not distantly, genuinely, I was friendly with them. The kind of relationship where a phone call is a natural thing. I made one. I explained that she was a thief who had been stealing cash from her employer and blaming innocent co-workers for the shortages. I explained that she had been using the overnight shift for purposes that had nothing to do with managing the front desk. I gave them the honest picture of who they were considering hiring. She did not get the job. Here is what strikes me most about this, looking back. She had spent months creating a system designed to protect herself. She deflected blame onto co-workers who couldn't defend themselves against it. She managed her employer's suspicions carefully enough to stay employed longer than she should have. She presumably believed she had the situation under control. What she didn't account for was one night when she didn't show up, and one phone call to a husband who came down to see for himself. She hadn't been caught doing anything illegal in that lobby moment. The theft investigation was separate. But she had been caught being exactly who she was, in front of exactly the wrong person, at exactly the wrong time. And the version of herself she'd been hiding from her husband, her employer, and the next potential employer all became visible within a few days of each other. The man who emptied the garbage kept his job. He'd never done anything wrong. She lost too. There's something worth saying about the specific cruelty of accusing someone who can't effectively defend themselves. She didn't just steal money, she pointed at a kind, honest man and said he was the thief, repeatedly, knowing it wasn't true. Because she calculated that he was the safest person to blame, that part of the story has stayed with me longer than the lobby moment. The lobby moment was satisfying. The part where she kept her job while he was being accused of things he didn't do, that part was not. Eventually it corrected itself. It just took longer than it should have. If this gave you the satisfaction of watching someone's own choices finally catch up with them all at once, smash that like button and drop a comment. Have you ever witnessed a moment where someone's entire carefully managed deception collapsed in a single scene? I want every story. And if you want more tales of accountability arriving at exactly the right moment, subscribe. New story every week. See you in the next one.